This video is going to be how to put together or how to build a squirrel table. Now, let me just get this out of the way so I don't have to say it again. Please do a thumbs up, subscribe, like, share on the video. Let's make this go viral. Affiliate links in the video description if you want to help me out. So that's out of the way. This project is rather simple to do. Even if you were really bad at woodworking, like I am, I'm really bad at this stuff. I am going to make this table out of 3/4 inch plywood. Now, I don't really have a good saw. I used somebody else's saw. I'm trying to find a piece of wood so I can show you. I used, here we go. I used a miter saw and a table saw, and you can see with plywood, it just ripped up, it shredded the edges of the wood, and it doesn't look as nice as I would like it to be. But if that doesn't bother you, that's fine. If it does, normally I use a Japanese pole saw. It takes forever to use. You get the cleanest cuts ever, and the edges are really smooth. So it's up to you. You do not need a table saw, you don't need a miter saw, you just need a hand saw. Now, I'm going to show, I've already shown, but I'm going to show a picture of the finished product at the beginning so you know what you're going to be building. My artwork is not the best, but let's just assume a picnic table at a park. We have a top, we have 2 seats, we have legs on the side. That's what this table is all about. And you can really do whatever you want. I'm going to give you some dimensions. The dimensions don't even matter because this is build it the way you want it, with the wood you want it, the size you want it. So we have a tabletop here, which is going to have 3 pieces of wood next to each other. You don't need to use 3 pieces of wood. You can use 1 piece of wood to cover the tabletop. The bench has 2 pieces of wood next to it. You don't need to use 2, you can just use 1 piece of wood on both sides. What you will need to be careful of is the supports, which will go underneath the bench seats, and the little support that will go underneath the tabletop to hold all 3 of these pieces of wood together. If you're using 1 piece of wood, you don't really have to deal with that. I'm going to be putting this together with wood glue, because it's just a tiny little project. Wood glue will be fine. Some people like to use a brad gun, a nail gun, little nails or screws. I'm dealing with plywood here. I don't want the wood to split, so I'm not going to be using nails going into the edge, because if it splits the wood, then I have to go and get more wood and start cutting it. Glue will be fine. So I'm going to show you as I go how I put this together and what's going on with these legs over here. We're going to have legs. Now, on all picnic benches, you're going to have a leg. You're going to have, obviously, an angle over here. I'm going to show you this. This would be what you would have on a bench. Let's assume you're looking at the bench. This is what you would see. You would see this would go up under the top of the, like that. That's how it would be. If you had the wood like this, then you wouldn't need these angles, but because we want an angle on the bench, you're going to need an angle in each direction, and you're going to need an angle on the bottom so that it sits on the floor. And I'm going to show you the dimensions for the legs. What I did over here is I put a 22.5 degree angle on each. 22.5 degrees, where does that come from? That is half of a 45-degree angle. If you don't have a miter saw, if you don't have a protractor, if you don't know what angles are, just draw it out on your piece of wood. Instead of using 22.5, just use 30. What is 30 degrees? A clock, look at your face, the face of a clock, number 12, the time 12 to number 1, that's 30 degrees. Is that right? 30, 60, 90, and then 180, and then 360. So you just have to imagine a 12 o'clock and a 1 o'clock, that's 30 degrees over there. Fairly simple to do. So So as far as the legs, we're going to have about 1/4 of an inch or so between the two legs when it's mounted to the tabletop. We're going to have a support connecting both the inside of each of the legs. We're going to have a support on each side to hold the legs together to give it some support. So really all you have is the top, 3 pieces of wood, the bench, 2 pieces of wood, the other bench, 2 pieces of wood, a leg on the other side, 2 legs on the other side, supports going across each leg, and supports holding the 3 pieces of wood together. Tabletop boards, I use 3/4 inch wood. You could use 1/2 inch wood, but 1/2 inch wood is really thin and you're probably going to get a really poor product out of this thing. So tabletop, 3 boards, 3/4 of an inch thick, 8 inch by 2 inch. Let me find that over here. Let's get that. So I've got 5 of these things. 3/4 of an inch thick, 8 inches long by 2 inches wide. Again, the dimensions however you want. So we've got 3 of those for the tabletop, and we've also got the seats. We have 2 pieces of wood on each side. It's the exact same thing, 8 inches by 2 inches. The supports that I told you about, those are the supports that go underneath the table, connecting the legs together. These are really long. We can see the 2 seat supports, 3/4 of an inch thick, 12 inches by 1.5. So the other pieces were 2 inches. This is 1.5. And again, you can see the plywood is always not the best when you're going on the edge. So we've got the 2 seat supports, we've got the tabletop, we've got the seats. Let's do the under the table support. That would be this. This is going to connect these 3 pieces of wood together. This will go underneath. Some people would put this underneath and screw this into each board. I'm just going to be gluing it in. And then what else do we have? And then we've got the legs that I told you about. The legs, not that critical either. Not really that critical. These legs are going to be, I'm looking for the legs, the seat supports. So we've got over here legs 5 to 7 inches high. It's up to you. It's really up to you how you want to do this thing. You can start off with a piece of wood that's maybe about 6 inches long, and then as you 6 inches long, and then as you, so that would be this, 6 inches. And then as you start cutting your angles, maybe you'll end up with a 5 inch or a 5.5. Again, not that critical. As I wrote over here, legs 5 to 7 inches. Do whatever you want, 25 to 30 degree miter cut for the angle. When you're mounting your legs on the bottom of the table, you're going to want to have about 1/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Just mount the legs so that it looks good. And they'll both come out in nice angles, spaced out properly. So let me show you the pieces of wood I've got right now. I just showed that to you. I've got my 2 12-inch pieces over here under the table, the leg supports. I've got my 2 legs. I've got my other 2 legs. I've got the pieces over here that will hold the bench together. I've got my 2 pieces for the seat, 2 pieces for the other seat, 3 pieces for the tabletop. So let me show you. The very first thing that I am going to do is work on the 3 pieces for the tabletop. And I'm going to have to connect these 2 pieces, the supports, which I will do inside. This is really the bottom of the table now, because this is, once I turn this over, this won't be seen anymore. These 2 pieces are just to hold the 3 pieces of wood together. And something else, these are 3 square pieces. If you want to spend the time to use a router to put a round corner a round part on here if you want to use sandpaper. That's up to you. So I've got these two pieces that I am going to center between here and here. So, and that's a piece of damaged wood, so I'll put that on the bottom so it looks better. Nobody will see that. And don't forget, we've got the legs, so you don't want to put this right at the edge, because if you do, where are you going to put your legs? So you want to make sure that this is inward a little bit. And then I'll be mounting my legs. I'll have enough space so I'll be able to mount my legs over here. And I want to turn this around again so that you can see why you're doing the angle on the legs. See how that looks? That is what you would see on a normal bench like that. Now if I turn these around, you're going to see right away that this wouldn't look right. If I turned it around, you don't see a picnic bench that looks like that. That wouldn't make any sense, would it? So that's the idea of putting on the angles. Pieces go outward like a regular picnic bench, and it looks good. And again, remember I said the 1/4 inch, so that allows you to screw or glue and get a connection between. If I was putting these over here, we'd only have these two pieces glued or screwed in. Of course, this is going to give you the support, but if you put it in closer, it looks a lot better. And it puts these pieces, it puts this much closer to the edge, looks a lot better. So that is going to be the second phase. First, I'm going to put these two pieces on, let them dry, then I'm going to take my two legs and I'm going to mount them. And then while I'm at it, let me show you the whole point of, we're going to have the legs. Remember I told you about this long 12-inch piece? This will be spaced out, but this is the idea behind it. You end up getting a support for your legs. And that's going to go on the inside. So I think you're starting to see what this looks like, how it looks, how it works. Very easy to do. You'll do this on one side, you'll turn that around and do it on the other side. And then we've really used most of our wood. But don't forget, we have the bench seats that we have to mount. And that is why the spacing is very important, because we need to make sure that we have enough room on here for putting on the seat. Let me get one of these legs out of the way. Let me get the other leg out of the way. So what we're going to have is we're going to have two seats, two pieces for the seat. We need to make sure that this mounts. We need to make sure that we have enough space so that we can put this on one side. Let me back up a little bit. And that we can get the other two seats on the other side. So it's all going to be, and I'll give you the dimensions, I'll show it to you when I'm done, but the whole idea is that you're going to want to be able to have enough room to mount your seats, and this piece of wood is not long enough, so it's not going to go the whole length of the bench. It's just going to go partially on the outer piece, partially on the outer piece, and then we'll have the two inner pieces mounted, and we'll have enough room so that we can mount the legs. So it's really, I'll give you all the dimensions, but it's really a creative thing where you use your mind and you try to fit it so that it all comes together and it fits properly. And using all these pieces, that will happen. So I'll be back with some dimensions. I know I'm talking a lot. I don't want to tell you how to build it. I want to show you how to build it and let you do it so that you can learn. First step. Got the 3 boards, and they're not perfectly even, so I'll sand them off when I'm finished. What I did is I measured in, and again, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do what I'm doing. It's up to you. Just look at it, try to make it fit nicely. I went 1.9 inches in from here. You could go 2 inches. You do whatever you want, really. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to take each one of these pieces, and I'm going to put it on the inside of the line. We got that line over there. I'm going to put it on the inside of the line, And that is going to give me my support. I'm going to space it kind of evenly between the three boards. The three boards are flat, so I'm just going to take some wood glue. I'm going to put it underneath here, put this down, let it dry for about an hour. And then my next step is going to be working on the legs, which are going to be spaced out evenly. You could already see what this is going to look like. I'm going to space out the legs and make sure that this outer piece is going to give me enough room so that I have my support. So we're going to go like this. We're going to have the support, but again, remember, this piece is not going to be on here. These two pieces are going to be raised up. So we'll get to that next. First step, 3 pieces going in about 1.9 inches from the end on each side. I'm going to glue my supports for the tabletop, and I'll be back. Whereas a lot of people would use nails or wood screws and risk the possibility of the wood splitting unless you pre-drilled it, all I did is I put some wood glue on there. You can see it hanging out a little bit. It is on the inside. The piece of wood is on the inside, so that's 1.9 inches from the end to that board. I did that on both of them. Close enough, it's not really going to matter. It's not that critical. And I'll give it about an hour for it to dry. I could put clamps on here, but it really doesn't matter. These 3 pieces are level against the towel on the table, and this is flat. It doesn't really need to be clamped down. Okay, so we are continuing on with the build. And I'm sure if you are an expert wood person, this is a job and a project that's really easy. You just throw it together in 2 seconds and it works. I am not that person. Most of the people that are watching this probably aren't that person either. So I was trying to figure out how am I going to line up everything so that it's going to go on here, and we're going to have the legs over here, and we're going to have enough space with this cross piece over underneath here, and there's going to be enough room for it all to line up and to get the seat on here. And I couldn't really figure out how the heck am I going to do that. And again, if you're a good woodworker, this is probably very easy for you to do. So what I came up with was my plan of gluing both boards together. So if you were rounding the edges with a router, you would see that this is actually 2 pieces of wood, but it's kind of hard to see that. This is the only way I could figure out to do that. I didn't want to leave a space between these 2 pieces, gluing it down, because I was worried that there would be dirt inside there. So I just glued both pieces together, and that step is done. So now I'm thinking, how in the world do I get everything lined up? You need to have your angles accurate. All of these are going to have to be accurate. And I couldn't really figure out where do I put this so that this bar is going to line up and there's enough space over here to put this on here. That's why I glued these 2 together, so it doesn't really matter if it overhangs, which it's supposed to. There will be enough with the glue, it will hold. So what I decided to do is I've got these 2 boards over here. Sorry about the bright light, but we kind of need some light. So what I did is I've got this board over here and this board over here, and you can see I was marking. I was going to try to do this, put it all together and then glue it all, but nothing made sense. So what I did is this board is 1.5 inches across, and half of 1.5 inches is 3/4, so I marked 3/4 over here, marked 3/4 over here, and I want you to see what I'm going to do. Do it however you want that it's going to work. If there's a better way to build this, and I'm sure there is, let me know. So I've got this board, I've got this board, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up that 1.5 inch mark with that, and that way it's going to be really easy to get a clamp down here and to hold it down and glue it. And I know some people might want to mount this up over here, but I thought this is absolutely perfect. I can mount it over here and I can put it over here. I can get glue on this area and I can mount this, clamp it down, mount this on this center piece over here, the space between these 2 boards, put this over here, probably about 1/4 inch or so of gap osis over there between the 2 pieces, and so this is going to work out really good, I hope. After I get this done, I'll go to the other side and mount those two legs, and that way I can put the thing down on a table or on the ground and make sure that it doesn't rock. Make sure that it's even enough, level enough. That's the plan, and then after that, I will take this piece and mount it up over here somewhere. You can see where I put the marks. That was the original plan. I don't know that that's going to work, but it's in those marks over there. And then that really gives me enough room to mount this piece over here and make it a bench. So that's what I'm going to do. I am using tiny little clamps over here. You can buy these online. They will cost about $25 for a set of 4, maybe $30. You can buy these at HD, the big box HD. They will cost about $15 to $20, or you can go down to Harbor Freight and pick them up for $2.99 a piece. This was the Harbor Freight one for $2.99 a piece. So, and it works out really good. If you're using screws again, it doesn't really matter, but then you can take a nail or a screw and put it over there. For me, I'm just going to mount this piece over here, make sure it's level. I'm going to even against the board. Glue on here, glue on here. Press it against there, put a clamp down here, hold it. Same thing on this section. Sorry the video's so long, but you wouldn't be watching this unless you wanted to know what I'm doing. So we'll get those two pieces, and then on the other side I'll mark 3/4 of an inch center point, line it up with those two pieces here. You can see how your measurements really need to be kind of accurate, and if they aren't, it doesn't really matter. You just file or sand it down until it works. It's just a cool project, and it doesn't really matter in the end. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow. And I wanted to show you this before I ended the video for the night. That is the first leg that is on there. So what I did is I marked this area so I can put glue on this piece, glue on this side over here. I didn't have to mess with this leg. I just put the glue on here, I put the glue on here. I put the black line right against the center point line that I did 3/4 of an inch, right against where this board is, the two boards meet. Put the glue, you can see where the glue squeezed out. Just using a cheap little clamp, it will hold this in place. It's perfectly lined up, and everything should work out good as long as these angles are good. And if they're not, you just sand it to make it work. For those of us that are not really good at wood, that's what you do. You make it work. That's what carpenters do in a house. Most things are not accurate, and they make it work. So, and I'll just take the other leg. Is this it? Little black dot over there. I'll go in there and I'll pop some glue on here, put the bracket on, the clamp, keep it for, the glue says I think 30 minutes, 45 minutes to dry, 24 hours for total cure. And you might want to do the screws and the nails, but all I can think of is if I pop the screw or a nail through there and it split this cheap plywood, I'd be in trouble. Okay, have a good night. First two legs mounted to the center of the boards, the 3 boards, proper angle, got the clamps on there, leave it on there for about an hour or two, then I'll go over to the other side, do the exact same thing, and then let it dry for a long time, and then I'll put it on the floor and make sure that it's not rocking and it's perfectly even. Then I'll probably do a nice sand down before I go and put on the benches, which is going to make it very difficult to sand. So I'll sand it again. A lot of wood has split and splintered, and that's where we're at right now. And that is it for the night. I put on too much glue over here, so it's not going to dry for a couple hours. I luckily had a few other clamps. Clamps are wonderful. They're very inexpensive. And if this project works out really well, I'm going to be, oh, there are my shoes, my feet. If this project works out really good, I will be making different types of birdhouses or different wood projects with my lack of skill. So 4 clamps, 4 legs. Tomorrow, really, the only thing that needs to go on is the seat supports, the bench supports, and the bench pieces. Line them up, glue them down, and then this thing is almost finished. It is morning time. I'm kind of excited because, as I said, I'm really bad with wood projects. Everything I do with wood gets screwed up. This is it as of this morning. It's on a table, so I can't be sure it's 100% stable, but it looks really good. So those are the 3 pieces that we started with. And over there we've got the bench seats. These are the legs with the 22.5 degree slants. This is the bench support that I put in there. And so, as I said, these are the 2 benches with 2 pieces of wood each. You could cut that with 1 piece of wood, or you could do it really nicely by using a router on the edges to make it so that you can really see that there are 2 pieces of wood for the bench. And then we have the supports. So I'm looking on the table saying, is that it? There's only 4 things that I need to finish with, and that is really what's going on here. I'm going to figure out where I position these so that I can have the bench glued on both sides, and then I think I will glue both of these supports on first when I know where the bench can go, and then finally I will clamp the benches, glue the benches to the supports, and we'll be done. And we'll get back to that soon. Don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Donations accepted in the video description. Click on the affiliate links also. We are almost finished. Look at this. I just mounted this piece. I'm sure there's a much better way to do this whole thing in a better order so that everything comes out accurate. The problem I'm having when I'm gluing these pieces and then clamping them down is when the clamp hits it, it wants to slide with the glue all over the place. And that's just because I'm a beginner and I don't really know what I'm doing. So we can see over here I've got the bottom or the top table, the bench, top supports, bench supports, leg, and the only other pieces are these 2 pieces over here, which are going to be the benches. And if I was doing this right, I would have a level and I would make sure that these 2 pieces were level. All I did is I put the bench on both of these, and it appears to be accurate. I measured the gap between here to the leg, which is kind of odd because it's a 22.5 degrees, so it's going to come off a little different dimension, but it was close enough. So that's the whole thing of this project. It's close enough, and I think it's all going to come together. Tomorrow I will take these clamps off. I will glue the benches to the supports, the bench supports. I'll do one at a time. I could do both of them, but I'm having a really hard time making this easy for myself without things sliding all over the place. And I guess maybe if I was doing a drilling the thing and then putting a brad in there or something, or a screw, but if I drill the hole off, that could cause a problem too. So here we go. Almost at the end of the video. I'll see you tomorrow morning. We are less than a day away. I have just glued the first bench onto the rails, and I'm sure that there is a better way to do this where you probably glue the bench to the supports first and then maybe glue it into here. I don't know, that would be a lot of weight on this thing. So my cutting is not perfect. The bench is seated but not completely in one section, and I'll show it to you in a few hours when the glue dries. Almost done. I got tired of waiting, so I just put both benches on. If you're going to do this, I would really recommend not using nails or screws or brads. Glue is a really easy way to do this. Make sure that you've got a nice selection of clamps. These are, one of them is a 6-inch, I guess they're both 6-inch, 6-inch or 4-inch clamps. Try to have 4 of them so that you can do what I'm doing over here. But everything's put together now. Not 100%, the benches didn't sit on the supports 100% perfectly, but that's okay. It really doesn't matter. So everything's put together. I'm going to leave it alone for 24 hours, let all the glue dry. Then I will turn it upside down, show you what it looks like. And then after that, it's really just scraping off the excess glue, doing a nice smooth sanding of this thing, and I don't really know if I'm going to stain it, but that is the project. Took about 3 or 4 days to record it, let all the glue dry, and let it dry overnight. So not that hard of a project, a fun project. I'll be back. There it is, everyone. I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed. I have not sanded off the wood glue. I don't think I want to stain it because I want to have the nice wood textures. I'm just going to do a little bit of sanding. That pretty neat. I'm happy. I don't do wood projects well at all. Everything gets messed up. So the fact that this came out is rather incredible. Let's turn it again. It's very heavy because it's 3/4 inch plywood. This little thing is extremely heavy. Probably 3, 4, 5 pounds, maybe 3 pounds. I don't know. So that's it. Let's look at the bottom. You see the supports underneath. You see the bench supports. If I can make this, anybody can make this, because believe me, I am not good with this stuff. That's the one area where I had a little bit of a gap. It didn't matter because it glued down. The wood was a tiny bit warped and my measurement was a little bit off. But when you're looking at it, nobody knows. So that is how to make a squirrel picnic bench. Put some nuts on there and leave it outside for the squirrels. If you were going to be using plywood, it's probably not going to last too long. If it's going outside, make sure that you use wood glue that is acceptable for outside. Again, you can use nails or screws or whatever fastener you want. Cedar might be a better choice. Cedar will handle dampness and wood better, and you can buy pieces of fence board that are very inexpensive. They're not going to be the right dimension, but again, as I said, just make it fit for whatever size you want. If we can turn this video viral and I get 9 million views and I get my $100,000 thing from YouTube, then I will make more of these videos. Let me know what you thought. I know the video's long, but all of my videos are long. Thank you for watching.